Picture this. It's a November evening in Louisville, Kentucky. A massive McDonnell Douglas MD-11 cargo jet sits at the end of runway 17R. 3 experienced pilots prepare for the long haul to Honolulu. But just as the nose wheels lift off the ground, something goes catastrophically wrong. The left engine, all 10,000 pounds of it, tears away from the wing and tumbles backwards over the aircraft. 46 years ago, an almost identical failure killed 271 people and supposedly changed aviation forever. So why did it happen again? Stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for some extreme turbulence, because this is Final Boarding Call.
And we're live.
We're live. We got that on-air sign glowing. We do not have one of those. We record in our living room.
This is our kitchen, darling.
It is. Well, we have,
I guess kind of
we have a small house and also an open floor plan, so it's everything.
There's no walls here.
There are no walls, which means there's no storage. People rarely mention that. Everyone wants an open floor plan, except if you have no walls, you have nowhere to hide your crap.
Yeah, we've got 3 total closets. They're all touching each other as one little random half wall in the whole place.
We make do. We're humble folks here.
At least one of us is.
All right, anyway.
Take a guess, which one?
If you're new to the podcast, you're probably like, what the hell is happening? I am your disaster-obsessed host, Alice.
And I'm Zach. I'd just be staying at home.
Yeah, and it's a snow day.
It is a beautiful snow day. Our first real snow of the year. And we getting a bunch. We're like 6 inches today.
It's really awesome. It didn't snow for all of October. It really didn't snow in November. Mm-mm. This is very late for us, and it feels right to have snow in Colorado.
As the old folks say, yeah, we need it.
Oh my God. Before we dive in, quick reminder to all of our listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You guys have been leaving the sweetest Spotify comments, and reading them makes my day. Even the ones that are kind of hater ones, I just, like, it cracks me up. It cracks me up. So
boring.
That's us. Why are you listening then? I have so many questions. All right. Anyway, this is important to say at the top here because this incident is being actively investigated still. Mm-hmm. This just happened in November. We are recording this in early December. This is hot and fresh off the presses. We have never covered a case that is this new. So I'm going to tell you every single thing that I have. I just updated the episode this morning with news that came out. So I know. Primary sources for this, you guys, NTSB's preliminary investigation report. Again, it's preliminary. Important to note, it is not final.
More info will come out.
Yep. The NTSB media briefing, and then news coverage from Associated Press, NBC News, CNN, Wall Street Journal, BBC, and more. All of those are listed in the show notes. To understand what happened on November 4th, 2025, we need to understand 3 things: the airline, the aircraft, and the location where this tragedy unfolded. Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm sorry if you're a Louisville person. I grew up and called it Louisville, so that is how I'm going to pronounce it. Louisville, Kentucky isn't just another city with an airport. It is home to Worldport, US's massive global air hub at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport.
Oh, so that's where they've got like all of the planes for the Brown team.
This is what Brown can do for you. This is the world port, which is the beating heart of overnight package delivery in America. Those packages are sorted in a facility that is so large, it has its own zip code.
That's actually pretty incredible.
It's insane. And then they're loaded back onto planes, headed to their final destinations. It's a precisely choreographed ballet of aircraft, conveyor belts, logistics, that process millions of packages every single night.
So if you've ever wondered why you had a package that went from California to Louisville and then to your destination,
That's why.
That's why.
Now you know.
Because it's my super short show.
On any given evening, you can watch this parade of brown-tailed jets taking off and landing, dozens of them, mostly 757s and 767s. However, the airline does have a fleet of MD-11s. So these aircraft are you guys know I love this word, they're the workhorses. That and redundancy. If we could play a drinking game on this podcast.
I can't tell you how redundant it is that somehow every plane is a workhorse for somebody.
But it's true. Like, you got to think about every use case of flight. It needs a workhorse.
This one is the workhorse for these short trips.
And
this one's the workhorse for overseas.
I'm going to beat you up. Okay.
Cargo workhorse. Wearing cargo shorts.
Okay, here is why, though, very specifically. So this one is the workhorse for long-haul international routes because it's a big plane and it can hold much fuel and it can hold many packages.
Yes.
She a big girl.
Many packages.
I am not going to say out loud what Zach did with his hands right there. Okay, UPS Airlines is the second largest cargo carrier in the United States, just behind FedEx. Founded in 1988, the airline has maintained a generally strong safety record over its nearly 4 decades of operation. So prior to the flight that we're talking about today, which is Flight 2976, UPS had suffered only 2 fatal accidents.
Wow.
Ever. So Flight 6 happened in 2010, which crashed in Dubai, and that's a really tragic story. And then Flight 1354 in 2013, which crashed on approach in Birmingham, Alabama. And both of those killed the crew members.
I will say this, as far as fatalities go, in something like a UPS transit plane, there's not going to be a lot of passengers, so it does keep the death toll fairly low.
It does. Still, obviously,
terrible.
Horrific. But yes, I mean, that's obviously, it's going to be a difference between a plane that's full of people that's going to Hawaii and a plane that's full of cargo that's going to Hawaii.
Except
okay.
Cargo go to Hawaii. No cargo.
Oh, Zachary.
That's cargo?
I'm going to leave that in so the people can hear how insane you are. But what happened on November 4th, 2025 would become the deadliest accident in UPS Airlines history, and one that would send shockwaves through the cargo aviation industry. So we're going to talk very briefly about this aircraft. The McDonnell Douglas MD-11 is a wide-body, 3-engine jet that was essentially an upgraded version of the DC-10, which we have covered a lot. I think I had like 4 weeks where every story was a DC-10. I was like, we have to do something else because it's given DC-10's a bad name.
I've never even flown on a DC-10.
They are used exclusively for non-commercial services. So things like cargo, aerial firefighting, which is so cool that that's a thing, and some other stuff, but they're not, you're not going to board one on your trip to Chicago. Chicago. All right. So this particular aircraft, the MD-11, it was designed in the late 1980s as McDonnell Douglas's answer to the more modern wide-body aircraft like the Boeing 777, 777.
The big ones.
Yes. Here's the thing about MD-11s. They weren't particularly successful as passenger aircraft, which is interesting. Airlines found them inefficient compared to newer 2-engine jets. Yeah. And production ended in 2001 after only 200 were built.
I bet it cost more to engineer them, made selling them.
It probably did. And they found a second life, though, as cargo haulers.
Love it.
So there you go. Yeah. Their large payload capacity and long range made them ideal for freight operators, right? So by 2025, nearly all of the remaining MD-11s in service were cargos. N259UP, which is this particular plane, had quite a history. So it was built in 1991 And it first flew for Thai Airways International.
Interesting.
I know. And after 15 years of service, it was converted to a cargo configuration and it was sold to UPS in 2006. By November 2025, this aircraft is 34 years old. It is well into what aviation experts consider geriatric.
Ready for its retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But not for UPS.
Yes.
They say, we'll still give you a job, old guy.
I mean, this plane was older than many of the pilots. It has taken off, landed, gone through all of the stresses of air travel over 21,000 times. It had accumulated almost 93,000 flight hours. It was 8 flight hours short of hitting 93,000 flight hours.
That's a lot.
That is early 90s Honda Civic mileage right there. That girl won't quit. Can't stop, won't stop. Here is something crucial. Just 2 months before the crash, this plane had been grounded for over 6 weeks of extensive maintenance that ended on October 18th. 6 weeks of maintenance.
It's always after a big maintenance, guys.
Yeah. During that work, crews repaired a cracked fuel tank and addressed corrosion on structural components. Some of the parts involved in attaching the engine to the wing were lubricated during this maintenance performed by VT San Antonio Aerospace. But here's the kicker. The engine mount itself hadn't undergone a detailed inspection since 2021. And the plane wasn't due for another detailed inspection of that very critical component for another 7,000 takeoff and landing cycles. It seems like a lot of stress to allow to be on a really important component, but I don't write these directions or manuals.
To be fair, how many times has your average person gone into an auto shop and said, I need you to check my engine mount? It doesn't happen.
That's fair. But
it's a weird thing.
But if it was written into, your 20,000 mile service, then you would. You'd at least check it to see if it was cracked or anything.
At least 10% of America would.
But folks, let me tell you, just like this, if you lost an engine mount, you'd know it. There would be no mysteries. Oh my gosh. I remember when I did that at an autocross event, and it was like my intercooler was smashing into the hood of my car. It was one of the weirdest sounds I've ever heard.
Yeah.
The aircraft was repaired, and it was returned to service, cleared as airworthy and ready to fly. The crew that day consisted of 3 experienced pilots. So we have Captain Richard Wartenberg. He's 57 years old. He's a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel who had served with the 445th Airlift Wing. This guy can fly. He had accumulated right around 8,613 total flight hours, including over 4,900 of those in the MD-11. He would be serving as pilot monitoring for this flight. But he is not actually going to be the pilot flying for this flight. That's going to be our first officer. So First Officer Lee Truitt is 45 years old, and he has right around 9,200 total flight hours, though only 994 of them are on the MD-11. So he's kind of new. So, yeah. And then we have a relief officer because this is such a long flight. So there's no way that 2 people can safely do this whole shindig. They're going to have to take turns resting and then coming back to fly. So our relief officer is Dana Diamond. He is 62 years old.
Oh, wow.
He had the most experience of all. He had 15,250 total flight hours, and almost 8,800 of them were on the MD-11.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
They had between them over 33,000 hours of flight time. Flight 2976 was a regularly scheduled cargo flight from Louisville to Honolulu. This is how packages are getting to Hawaii.
And why shipping there is so expensive.
Oh, it really is. When I do events in Hawaii, I have a whole line item on my budget that's just shipping costs because it's so expensive. An 8.5-hour journey total that would take them across the continental U.S. and halfway across the Pacific Ocean. For a flight of that length, they need a lot of fuel. So the MD-11 was loaded with approximately 38,000 gallons.
Jesus.
38,000 gallons.
Sounds expensive.
That's roughly 250,000 pounds of jet fuel. It's enough to fly from Kentucky to Hawaii with reserves, which you always want reserves.
Always.
The weather that evening was perfect for flying. Clear skies, visibility for 10 miles, wind very mild, just 6 knots from the southeast. This was as routine as it could go. You got great pilots, great crew, good weather, well-traveled route. At 5:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the tower cleared this flight, Flight 2976, for takeoff from runway 17R. 17 right. Heading south. The pilots pushed the throttle forward and all 3 engines spooled up to maximum takeoff power. The heavily loaded aircraft began rolling down the runway, picking up speed. Inside the cockpit, the pilots would have been making their standard callouts as they accelerated. 80 knots, V1, and if you're a first-time listener, V1 is the decision speed. So that is the last point where the flight could be aborted, the takeoff could be aborted.
You can bail and safely brake and not shoot off the runway.
Yeah, so once you've gone past V1, you're committed. You're in it. And then you say, rotate, which is time to pull back, lift the nose wheel off of the runway. First Officer Truitt pulled back on the controls, and the massive cargo jet lifted into the evening sky. The landing gear was still extended. The aircraft climbed through maybe 30 feet above the ground, accelerating toward the normal climbing speed of around 185 knots. Then, in an instant, everything went wrong. Airport surveillance cameras captured what happened next in truly horrifying detail. The NTSB later released a series of frame-by-frame images that show the sequence with brutal clarity. I am going to show Zach this video. So I just showed Zach the video. It's pretty insane.
It's less than ideal. I was not picturing that kind of explosion that would shoot the engine upward above the plane.
Yeah.
Like dramatically above the plane. It was like 30, 40 feet higher than the highest point of the plane.
Whew. So I'm going to verbally tell you what happened here, but the videos, you can see them online if you want to.
We could put a link in the show notes.
I probably won't do that. You guys know how to use the internet. You're big boys and girls out there. Sorry if that sounded mean, but it
was rude.
It was rude. I'm rude. As Flight 2976 rotates and begins to climb, you can see the left engine, the number 1 engine in aviation terminology, still attached and producing thrust. And literally in the next frame, the attachment has failed. And the entire engine, along with most of the pylon that connects it to the wing, tears away from the aircraft. And it does not simply fall, Zach, as you stated. This thing is 10,000 pounds, and it flips backwards, tumbles up over the wing in a shower of sparks and debris. Fire erupts immediately at the separation point where fuel lines, and we have a lot of fuel on this plane, and the hydraulic systems have been violently severed. The detached engine completes its violent tumble and crashes onto the grass on the right side of the runway 17R, ironically on the opposite side of the runway from where it had been attached to the aircraft.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the obviously crippled MD-11, now missing its left engine entirely and with a raging fire, continues to struggle forward.
Momentum.
Oh gosh, this is so brutal. So in the cockpit, the pilots would have felt a massive jolt, heard an enormous bang, seen warning lights illuminate. I mean, that thing would have looked like a Christmas tree lit up in that cockpit. Master warning lights, engine failure indicators, fire warnings. It would have been an absolute cacophony of alerts. And when investigators later recovered and analyzed the cockpit voice recorder, they found that it contained over 2 hours of good quality digital audio. The crew had completed their standard checklists, briefings and preparation. Everything was done textbook, by the book. But then, about 37 seconds after the crew called for takeoff thrust, a persistent bell sound began, likely the master warning or the fire warning system. And that bell continued for 25 seconds, right up until the end of the recording. And during those final 25 seconds, investigators could hear the crew engaging in efforts to attempt to control this aircraft.
I'm trying to put together a timeline in my head. So 25 seconds, I mean, they would have already been rolling, but I don't know if they would have been at their cutoff speed yet. I'm curious when exactly that bell sounded, what they were doing speed-wise, and if they could have aborted, or if they figured that it was just a warning and we got to check it out, and they were committed.
Yeah. Yep. So from the moment of engine separation to impact, they had less than 30 seconds. They had 30 seconds at low altitude with the aircraft on fire, missing an engine, and rapidly losing control.
Yeah, that is the thing about barely getting liftoff. Mm-hmm. You have zero correction time. You're just going to smack the ground, no matter what you do.
Yeah. The aircraft, which is heavy with fuel and now producing asymmetric thrust, mm-hmm. which is not good, it immediately began to bank to the left because obviously it's going to be...
We got one engine trying to dart into the sky and nothing propelling the other side.
Yes. So the pilots would have been fighting the controls trying to correct this leftward drift, but with one engine gone, hydraulics very much compromised, and fire damaging critical systems, their options were like...
None.
You have nothing. Flight tracking data shows the aircraft reached a maximum altitude of only 175 feet above the ground. Which is still, yes. I mean, that's still pretty darn impressive. And at its peak speed, it hit maybe 186 knots. So it didn't have time to retract landing gear. It didn't have time to establish a normal climb. And the video analysis, which we just watched, it suggests something else may have been happening as well. So aviation experts examining dash cam and surveillance footage have noted what appear to be bursts of flame from the tail-mounted engine, which is the number 2 engine. Some have speculated that debris from that number 1 engine
sucked into the second
may
one.
have gotten sucked in, causing the tail's engine to ingest basically shrapnel, and it may have caused a compressor stall. So this is a disruption in the smooth airflow through a jet engine, and it causes it to surge and produce flames from the exhaust. While the NTSB, it's important to note, has not confirmed whether or not this has happened. This is just aviation nerds and experts who have spent hours analyzing these video and photo clips. It raises a terrifying possibility that the crew may have lost not just one engine, but 2. Now, in our timeline, our very short timeline, the aircraft is descending. It is banking steeply to the left. It's on fire, and it is heading directly toward an industrial area just south of the airport. The pilots have no altitude to work with. They have no time to attempt any kind of recovery. They are passengers. At this point, they are riding a burning out of control aircraft toward the inevitable. And the left main landing gear, still extended, strikes the roof of a UPS supply chain warehouse, tearing a 300-foot gash across that building. Yeah. The impact tears away part of the gear, but it does not slow down the aircraft significantly. It's traveling at such a steep angle now that it's more falling than flying.
It was darn near 90 degrees from the clip that I watched.
Yes. So seconds later, the left wing, still engulfed in flames, slams into a stand of fuel tanks.
Couldn't have made that worse.
At Kentucky Petroleum Recycling, which is a depot that processes and stores petroleum products. The impact triggers an immediate explosion. Fuel from the tanks mingles with fuel from the aircraft's ruptured wing tanks, and the fire that was already consuming the left wing becomes an absolute inferno. The collision with the fuel tanks causes the aircraft to roll even more dramatically now onto the left. And it is now, like you said, Zach, we are now at more than 90 degrees. So it's inverted in my mind. It's more than 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And it continues its horrific path through the industrial area. And finally, at approximately 5:13 p.m., just 32 seconds after takeoff clearance, Flight 2976 slams into a semi-truck parking area and crashes through Grade A Auto Parts, which is an auto scrapyard.
I know them. I have ordered parts from them.
Holy shit. The impact is catastrophic. The aircraft, still carrying tens of thousands of gallons of jet fuel, explodes in a fireball that is visible for miles. The debris field stretches approximately 3,000 feet south-southeast from that initial contact with the UPS warehouse, more than a half mile of destruction, fire, and death.
Wow.
From a truck driver's dash cam, you can actually see the final seconds. A burning aircraft, clearly banking hard to the left, the gaping hole from where the engine should have been, and and the explosion.
And that video, I've seen that one's been circulating since late November, mid-November.
Yeah. The area where Flight 2976 crashed was not some sort of remote field or empty lot. This was a dense industrial corridor on the south side of Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. It was a neighborhood of warehouses, truck yards, scrap yards, fuel storage facilities, and manufacturing plants. And at 5:13 p.m. on a Monday evening, dozens of people were at work. The UPS warehouse that took the first impact was occupied. Kentucky Petroleum Recycling had employees on site. Grade A Auto Parts, where the main wreckage came to rest, had workers and customers present. Semi-trucks were parked in the lot that became part of the debris field, with drivers in their cabs sleeping or nearby. All three crew members died instantly. Captain Richard Wartenberg, First Officer Lee Truitt, and Relief Officer Dana Diamond. At least 11 people on the ground were killed. Yeah, and the identification process took days. Among the dead were 45-year-old Angela Anderson, who had been shopping at a business near the airport, 37-year-old Trinidad Chavez, who was working at Grade A Auto Parts. 2 employees of Grade A Auto Parts were initially unaccounted for. Oh God, this part really gets me. Even when I was writing the story, I cried a little bit. A 3-year-old child and her grandfather also perished in the inferno. Families began reporting loved ones missing almost immediately, 15 initially, then 9, as some were gradually accounted for. Another 23 people were injured, ranging from minor smoke inhalation to serious trauma, and at least 15 were treated at health facilities in the hours after the crash, with all but 2 eventually being released. Oh boy. The crash scene itself was described as hell on earth. Multiple structures were on fire simultaneously. The UPS warehouse, obviously the petroleum recycling depot, that was just a gigantic fireball. There were vehicles in the truck parking area, those were on fire, and then the wreckage of the aircraft itself. It was just black smoke billowing into the sky, and it was visible across almost all of Louisville. The smell of burning jet fuel, rubber, and chemicals filled the air. Emergency dispatchers were immediately overwhelmed with calls of people who had witnessed the crash. Louisville Jefferson County Emergency Management issued a shelter-in-place order within minutes, initially covering a 5-mile radius centered at the airport, which is honestly a very good emergency plan for something like this, because you do not know what chemicals have been put into the air. You don't know what kind of explosion could come from this. So I think that was a
Sparks from
great...
cars or exhaust or anything else.
Yes, I think that's a really, really good call. First responders arrived to find a scene unlike anything they had trained for. I mean, how do you train for something like this? This wasn't a single structure fire or a vehicle accident. This was a multi-site disaster. It spanned thousands of feet with confirmed fatalities, unknown number of people missing. It was just absolute chaos. More than 100 firefighters were deployed to the scene. Yeah, they're sending the big dogs out there. Fire crews had to balance competing priorities, fighting the fires, right? Trying to find survivors, collecting victims from the debris and, making sure that we can identify those people, as well as preserving evidence, because it's an investigation that needs to take place. That's a lot of stuff that you're trying to balance all at once. At Grade A Auto Parts, the main wreckage of the aircraft was scattered among crushed vehicles and machinery. So that's fun. You get to try and pick out random debris of planes from random debris of cars.
Yeah.
That's just, yes. The tail section with its distinctive UPS logo was still partially visible, and it lay twisted among the wreckage. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg held multiple press briefings throughout the evening and the following days, and at each one, the information grew more grim. The death toll climbed from the first initial press release where there was just multiple fatalities to 9, and then to 14. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency aimed at hastening the flow of disaster response resources to the scene. And despite the devastation, he noted that a nearby convention center, restaurant, and Ford Motor Company plant had escaped the blaze. Police established a reunification center
for anybody missing or displaced, and
urging families not to overwhelm hospitals by showing up to search for loved ones.
Yeah.
Wireless emergency alert messages were sent to everyone in the shelter-in-place area, warning them to stay indoors with their windows closed because of smoke and potential chemical hazards. And by 10:30 p.m., nearly 5.5 hours after the crash, firefighters had the blazes almost under control. The shelter-in-place was gradually reduced from 5 miles to 1 and then a quarter-mile radius, but the search and recovery effort was just beginning. All flights to and from Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport were canceled.
Oh, yeah.
The next morning, all public schools in Jefferson County were closed. UPS temporarily suspended operations at Worldport, the first time in the facility's history that the hub had gone completely silent.
Wow.
Package sorting operations came to a halt. The economic impact rippled across the region immediately. Seb is taking the story very seriously, as he should. Airport surveillance video and dashcam footage from trucks in the area captured the entire sequence. So that is why we have so many different angles of this horrible tragedy. The NTSB collected all this, knowing that it would be crucial as they try to understand what happened in 30 seconds.
Yeah, to be so catastrophic.
Yes. And then there was the waiting for victim identifications, waiting for the fires to cool enough for investigators to enter the scene and actually start looking for evidence, and waiting for answers about what could make this even happen. The incident runway, 17R35L, remained closed for 10 days.
Wow.
The adjacent runway reopened the following morning, allowing limited airport operations to resume. But it would be 2 full days before the airport returned to full operational status. UPS announced that while they were resuming operations at Worldport on Wednesday evening, their goal was to begin returning the network to a normal cadence with flights arriving at destinations on Thursday morning.
Okay.
For the families of the 14 victims, operations returning to normal
Doesn't feel good.
it just didn't mean very much to them.
Yeah.
Their loved ones weren't coming home, and they wanted answers. Within hours of the crash, the National Transportation Safety Board launched a GO team, 28 investigators.
Wow.
Yes. representing various specialties. NTSB board member Todd Inman was designated as the on-scene spokesperson. Their first priority was locating and securing
the black box.
You got it, baby, the flight recorders. Despite the intense fire and the violent impact, both black boxes were recovered the day after the crash.
Nice.
Yes, that's a win. In a story that doesn't have many wins, these devices are built to withstand 3,400 Gs.
Wow.
What?
Imagine what that would feel like.
I don't...
Crush a human body.
God, that's nuts. And they are designed to withstand 1,100 degrees Celsius for half an hour. And 20,000 feet of underwater pressure.
Jesus.
These things are...
You can't kill these.
God, we should be making our rocket ships out of this stuff.
It's the cockroach of aviation.
God, it's amazing. When investigators opened them, they found the recordings intact, although the devices themselves were very charred. But they did their job. Their job is to protect the goodies inside. Mm-hmm. The flight data recorder confirmed the basic sequence. Normal takeoff, rotation, climb to 175 feet, rapid descent. The cockpit voice recorder revealed that the crew had completed all standard checklists and briefings. But about 37 seconds after calling for takeoff thrust, a persistent bell began. 25 seconds. That is all that they had. The most crucial evidence was scattered across the debris field. The detached left engine and the pylon were a good place to start. Yeah. And when investigators examined the pylon attachment points, they weren't just looking at metal failure. They were looking at history. Now, folks, hi, friends, if you're new to our podcast, I recommend that when you finish this one, you go and listen to episode 11, where we cover American Airlines Flight 191.
Where they had an engine replacement.
On May 25th, 1979, a DC-10 lost its left engine during a takeoff from Chicago O'Hare, and it killed 271 people. It is still the deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history. The pylon failure was caused by improper maintenance procedures that created microscopic cracks in critical fittings. The aftermath supposedly transformed aviation maintenance. Mm-hmm. The dangerous procedures were banned. Inspection requirements were overhauled. When McDonnell Douglas designed the MD-11 in the 1980s, all those lessons were supposedly incorporated. Everyone believed that the problem had been solved. Well, on November 20th, the NTSB released their preliminary report on Flight 2976, and the findings were deeply troubling. Evidence of fatigue cracking in the left pylon's aft mount.
In the exact same spot as the other.
Oh my gosh. Examination showed fatigue cracks on both sides of the aft lug, where it attached to the wing, plus cracking along the bolt holes. Alongside the fatigue cracks were areas of overstress failure, where the remaining metal finally gave way under load. So each takeoff and landing creates stress cycles in aircraft components. And over thousands of cycles, microscopic cracks can form and they will grow. Modern aircraft have inspection intervals, much like your car, right? You hit certain mileage in your car and it's like, hey, you gotta go get your fluids flushed. You gotta go get X, Y, and Z checked to make sure that everything is doing its thing.
Do your timing belt if you're gonna buy an engine.
It's a good reminder for you to check your maintenance log on your car and see if you need anything done. You'll thank us later. Well, modern aircraft have a very similar thing, right? And this is because we want to catch these cracks before they become dangerous. The problem is that they can be hard to detect. And if they reach critical size, the component fails suddenly and catastrophically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
having
no
your
simple an engine shut off because your engine fell off.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what happened to this poor plane and the poor individuals that were unfortunately lost in this incident. The cracks had been growing for thousands of cycles until November 4th, when the metal finally gave way during a maximum weight takeoff.
Sure.
Here's the crucial detail. The last visual inspection of that pylon mount was October 2021, 4 years earlier.
And who knows how many trips? Got to be hundreds.
The aircraft had 21,000 cycles, but inspection thresholds were 28,000 and 29,200 cycles. How nuts is that? So it still hadn't even hit the cycle count to get this inspection done.
Yeah. The cycle counts, in my opinion, have to go down after you have, if the first one is at 29,000, then the next one should probably be 25 and then 20. And
it's wild. Were those intervals adequate for a 34-year-old aircraft that had recently needed repairs for a cracked fuel tank and corrosion?
Mm-hmm.
So here is the critical difference, people, between Flight 191 and this current flight. The DC-10 lost its engine because of improper maintenance procedures, right? The MD-11, which we're talking about today, lost its engine because the metal itself was running out of life after 3 decades and over 21,000 cycles. We fixed the maintenance problem in 1979. We banned the shortcuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
We improved inspections. We certified the MD-11 under stricter standards. And 46 years later, pylons built on the same basic design are still tearing off during takeoff.
Which sounds like the basic design is flawed rather than the procedure.
So give me 2 paragraphs, and I'm going to tell you what is happening now. Aviation attorney Robert Clifford, who worked on Flight 191 cases and has represented families in every major U.S. airline crash for over 45 years. What a wild thing to build your career on. So this guy, Robert Clifford, he immediately recognized the parallels.
Mm-hmm.
The visual evidence is haunting. So side-by-side video shows nearly identical sequences. After Flight 7976, the FAA didn't just ground MD-11s. On November 14, they extended the grounding to DC-10s as well.
You're all done.
Yeah, citing structural similarities across MD-11, MD-10s, and DC-10 pylons. Y'all grounded. Regulators now suspect the entire design family may have inspection gaps for long-term fatigue in these critical structures.
Yep.
Ooh, the lessons of Flight 191 were partially learned. Maintenance procedures were technically fixed, but we may have assumed that following the rules carefully would be enough, that these aircraft could fly safely for decades. But this flight suggests that we were wrong. Sometimes the metal simply runs out of life.
Yeah.
And when that happens at the engine-to-wing surface, the outcome is the same as it was in 1979. It is catastrophic. It is unsurvivable. 4 days after the crash, UPS grounded its entire MD-11 fleet indefinitely.
Good for them.
FedEx and Western Global Airlines quickly did the same. The timing couldn't have been worse because it's early November.
Mm-hmm.
So happy holidays, folks.
Yeah. Everyone that I know that has been like, I don't know why this package hasn't shipped yet. Well, this is why.
Now you know. Yeah, so if you're ordering some Black Friday goodies, ordered, I guess it's in the past tense, but if you're doing Christmas shopping, I would recommend getting it in early.
I still have mine to do.
You can always make a gift. That's my favorite. On November 8th, the FAA issued an emergency airworthiness directive requiring inspections before further flight, but no corrective actions had been specified yet. So we'll see what that means.
To see what they need.
Yeah. This effectively grounded all 109 remaining MD-11s worldwide.
Wow.
Worldwide. 6 days later, the FAA expanded the groundings to include DC-10s. Boeing was tasked with developing detailed inspection procedures. The impact on cargo operations was immediate. So carriers scrambled to reroute freight to Boeing 767s, 747s, and charter aircraft as well. So express freight customers faced delays, as Zach mentioned earlier. And this was happening during a government shutdown.
Yeah.
That was already straining aviation agencies. On November 27th, UPS President Bill Moore told employees the MD-11 fleet wouldn't return during peak season. Boeing's evaluation showed inspections and repairs would be more extensive than initially expected. What was estimated to take weeks would probably now take months. So Boeing engineers and FAA officials realized that the problems weren't isolated to this one aging aircraft. They were finding issues across most of the fleet. Evidence that these 30-plus-year-old freighters had been pushed to their structural limits.
Yeah. No more maintaining these planes. You dispose of them and get new ones.
Okay, Zach, this brings up a really important question. Why are cargo aircraft flying so much older than passenger jets? Passenger aircraft operated by major U.S. airlines average 10 to 15 years. And then they're put out to pasture, and oftentimes they're picked up to become cargo. Airlines regularly retire passenger jets after 20 to 25 years. So cargo aircraft fly for 30, 35. There have even been some that have made it to their 40th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. This aircraft was 34 years old.
It was close.
I mean, it was ancient for a passenger jet, but it was right in the typical range for a cargo.
Yeah.
So why? Why is this happening? The economics are completely different. Passengers demand newer planes with modern amenities.
We want TVs. We want all this stuff.
Turns out packages don't give a fuck.
That's true. They
They
don't.
do not care.
They don't have an opinion. There's no Karens on that flight.
No. And converting passenger planes to freighters costs tens of millions of dollars. So once you have made that transition, you gonna get your money's worth out of that bad girl. Training pilots on new types of planes also is expensive.
Yeah.
So if
It's
you
always
can,
money.
if you can
Everything is
squeeze
money.
another 5 to 10 years out of an existing freighter, the economics will always favor keeping it flying. But structurally sound is really kind of an important part of what we're talking about here. So this poor plane looked structurally sound. It appeared to be structurally sound. It passed inspections. It had been cleared after undergoing recent repairs. But hidden in those hard-to-inspect attachment lugs, metal was failing.
I'm just going to say it. Planes are starting to seem very similar to wind turbines to me. They just don't quite equal out to profit at the end. They should be retired. Instead, they're trying to squeeze more money out of them.
It's so true. So that brings up a really good point, Zach. The question facing the industry right now is whether these aircraft should return to service at all. So these aircraft are old. We have identified very significant potential issues with them. The 109 remaining MD-11s represent right around 9% of UPS's capacity and 4% of FedEx's. Now, those numbers might not seem very big, but if you take those out of production, that is going to have immediate and very dramatic impacts on the industry as a whole. So some observers have been suggesting that this could be the end of the MD-11 as a commercial aircraft. At 34 years old with mounting issues and catastrophic failures, might be time to retire the old girl.
I am definitely the guy that believes that things can be fixed, but it's got to stop being a dollars game. Either fix the economics behind it to where things are achievable for a reasonable price, or you put them out to pasture.
Yes, Zach.
And there's always going to be parts that you can save. The engines work. They just need to be mounted to the body correctly. So there's, buy a cheaper plane with no engines and put the new engines on it. I don't know.
I love how you're thinking of this
Like a car.
Yes,
Yeah.
like that's what we do, right? We'll just be like, yeah, sure, make this thing more fit on this thing, and it's
This
gonna be
engine
fine.
over here, it run good. Put it in this car that no run good.
That's it. Well, they are looking at it a little more black and white, at least for now. So the uncomfortable choice that they are left with is accept the risk of flying decades-old aircraft with hidden structural issues, or fundamentally restructure the cargo industry to rely on newer planes, which could take years
And buku bucks.
and cost, as Zach said, buku bucks. Billions of buku bucks, in fact.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, here is what we know. The left engine separated due to fatigue cracking in the aft mount lugs. The crew had no time to respond. 14 people died unnecessarily. And inspection of the failed components revealed both long-term fatigue cracks and sudden overstress failure. There have been, as you can imagine, some lawsuits.
I can imagine, yes.
Yeah. So on December 2nd, Clifford Law Offices and Sam Aguar, injury lawyers, filed wrongful death suits on behalf of Anderson's and Chavez's families against UPS, Boeing, GE, and VT San Antonio Aerospace, which was the company that performed the recent maintenance.
I've always wondered, when is the maintenance company responsible?
They're going to argue now. So just in case anybody is confused about why Boeing is being sued for this, Boeing actually acquired McDonnell Douglas in a stock swap deal valued at right around $13.3 billion. And this happened in August of 1997. So the merger combined Boeing's commercial jet strength with McDonnell Douglas's expertise in military and space programs. And the new company was simply called Boeing, with McDonnell Douglas just poofing
They disappeared
into
the sunset.
oblivion. Yeah. Attorney Robert Clifford was blunt. The preliminary report suggests that this plane was old, tired, and well beyond its useful life. Beyond lawsuits and investigations, there's a larger question here, guys. How do we balance the economic reality of aging cargo fleets with human life, with safety? How do we ensure inspection intervals that capture developing problems before we get to this point of complete catastrophe?
Yeah, I can't really speak for other countries, but here it is frequently, it's just all about the simple dollar. So my prediction is that they are going to let everybody else start flying again. And then when the next incident happens, which is inevitable, eventually it will happen if they keep flying these old, tired planes. They're just like, this should have never happened. Now they're all done.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're always doomed to repeat these kinds of things.
It's horrible. Well, until we have more answers or a solution or resolution or anything, the MD-11 fleet remains grounded. Peak season continues. We're in it. And families wait for justice. And Zach, that's our story for today. At least that's as much as I can tell you because the investigation's ongoing. So we'll do updates as more things take place with this one.
Yeah. Be ready for some somewhat bonus episodes that are a little bit shorter so we can add to this story in the future.
This one's crazy and so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
And it hits extra home because we have a 3-year-old and they lost a 3-year-old.
And the grandfather. And our 3-year-old has an amazing grandfather. And it just breaks my heart, the whole thing. So if you are feeling merry and festive and kind and giving this holiday season, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Tell a friend. We love word of mouth. Drop us a comment on Spotify. You can shoot us an email at finalboardingcallpodcast@gmail.com. And do you have any words for the people before I wrap this thing up?
Don't fly cargo.
This one's a rough one.
Yeah, this is...
There's no happy... No, this one does not have a happy ending. Woof. Okay, so join us next time when we'll be exploring another transportation disaster story. Until then, remember to stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for the unexpected, because not every trip reaches its final destination.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is Final Boarding Call.
Are you done?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Are you done or are you finished?
What is that from?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, we can ask the listeners.
I don't think that's a movie.
Oh.
I think it's something that somebody in my life used to say.
Oh, God. Then let's not ask the listeners. They'll be like, you're related to Uncle Bob, too?
You're a hoe.
A whole lot of fun.
Nope. These are the dynamics that people want to
These are the
listen to.
dynamics that people. It's like we're just at your table hanging out. Oh my gosh, I just swallowed that entire tea bag string. Yeah. Look at that.
What you get?
You ready?
No.
Picture
This.